Can you hold my leaf, Mom? Like you did. Can I swing down? Or like on this thing? Laura, you get down first. Yeah, on a show camera. Well, she needs to get down first.
Come this
Out
way.
of my way.
Scoot over towards Caroline.
Get your face.
Boing.
dog doesn't need to be.
I don't, if I'm
His name's Joe, right?
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
This is the court.
Yeah, you're right. I see it now. I couldn't see it before because it was too low.
No, mine.
So you like heights, Raji?
No.
What a surprise!
I have a lot of trouble with it.
Well,
Dog is trying to
sorry.
go down.
Huh? The dog? Probably. Probably. Tasha, where are you going? Well, if you're going to give me the dog and the baby, at least you can just take the camera for crying out loud. Here.
I got walnuts. But you know, healthy for this thing. You know.
These next few videos, we're going to have videos showing actual village. Here we have a Fort Ancient village. It's important when you see all the mounds and everything else to see how these people actually lived. Because the ceremonial complexes would have had villages around them, whether it be Hopewell, Fort Ancient. Now in this instance, Fort Ancient, you can see their activities here. The Fort Ancient ceremonial complex, about 1200 to 1500 AD, was never a homogeneous monolithic civilization, but was probably comprised of loosely related tribal bands scattered over the present-day areas of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky. The largest Fort Ancient village site is Madisonville, Ohio. There is no evidence, however, that Madisonville or any of the other sites operated as the major Fort Ancient center of influence. The Fort Ancient civilization is viewed as a distinct development during the late Woodland period. Now you can see the village here. Some of the activities, the importance of corn is predominant in this village. This is the inside of a hut. Seeing their distinctive pottery, the markings on there. Now this is how archaeologists date a lot of these pots, because certain civilizations have distinct markings on the pottery. You see them bringing in the deer. The deer were the primary meat source of these people, as well as fish and turkey. Here we see women engaged in corn agriculture. That would have been their primary job in this village. The agriculture was run by the women. This Fort Ancient complex is broken into three time areas: early, middle, and late. The early phase is prone to local influences, while the late Fort Ancient phase is more complex and shows an abundance of outside influences coming from all cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. Here's a Fort Ancient shaman. As the earlier Indian civilizations were influenced by other distinct and distant cultures, so were the Fort Ancient people, as indicated by the diversity of the village sites. It's also certain that the Fort Ancient people passed on their knowledge and culture to other peoples, and were probably an important link in passing on agriculture and ceremonies associated with it to other points. Here you see some combs here. Shell, an important status symbol. These all these artifacts here were found at this site here. This site here is right outside Dayton, Ohio. Right there is a dog. Now they just thought that dog was refuse, but later on they found evidence that that dog here was sacrificed as some part of some ceremony, so it was a sacred animal. Once again, what appears to be one way is often revised as they get more evidence. This is the importance of investigating these sites. A Fort Ancient village would have been bustling with activity. At the height of the Fort Ancient village would have been the large council house where the chiefs resided and performed ceremonies important to the vitality of the tribe. In the tombs of these chiefs, high status items are found, but very seldom any weapons. In Fort Ancient sites in general, there is no evidence of any large-scale violence. Few large mass graves, and most of the villages seem to have been constructed in a non-defensive position, as the Fort Ancient civilization progressed, the houses and villages became larger. Now here is the actual village itself. This is outside. This is actually on the site. Now this site was at one time was going to be abandoned or turned into a waste dump by modern civilization, but they saved this. Here we have a tune here. That's from a simple bone flute there. I put some people in here to provide some scale to it and to show you. There's a solar calendar right there. The inside of a hut. Now they have found evidence of these bone whistles. They only had like 4 note holes in them, an opening at each end. They would have had very simple tunes, such as the type played in the background. Note the hole in the roof to let the smoke out. This is just one type of village we'll be showing here. We'll show another type later on, just to give you an idea of what village life would have been like. And the average age of these people at the time of death was around 38 years old. It is believed that the 4 ancient people adopted the green corn ceremony, which was prevalent in the Mississippian culture and other western Indian nations. Archaeologists have found refuse pits where corn was ceremonially burned and buried, which is still practiced today by American Indians. In addition to agriculture, the 4 ancient people derived meat protein from the turkey, waterfowl, fish, and the sacred cattle of the Shawnee, the white-tailed deer. There's a corn pounder there. There was a dugout there, type boat that used. These would have been right along major riverways. There's a platform there. They believe they may have stood there, like chase away animals after the corn. Once again, an overview of the village here. Now this is inside the museum, showing the objects that were removed, most of these from graves. You can see how dependent they were on, like deer bones and shells. Those are for corn agriculture there. While new innovations no doubt added to the enhancement of Fort Ancient life, these new additions also had a downside as well. People in the early Fort Ancient tradition enjoyed better dental health than the later Fort Ancient people. Corn agriculture wreaked havoc on the teeth of later Fort Ancient people, and later Fort Ancient health is generally seen as worse due to problems associated with population density. Evidence of contact with European traders is evidence at some of the later sites, particularly at the Middle Fort Ancient site. At the Buffalo site in West Virginia, Neal's site in Parkersburg, there are a few European items, but some later sites have an abundance of European goods. Once again, we're showing the daily life here. Daily activities. This is the type of, there you have the storage of corn, pottery making pits there, fire pits for firing kilns, pottery, maybe a sweat lodge there. Once again, the arrow is the important thing to come in. These arrowheads during the Fort Ancient tradition, the bow and arrow came in, may have come in a little earlier, around 1000. They believe the bow and arrow came in. Here we have a guard. He's sitting on a tower wall. Once again, Fort Ancient weren't militaristic, but they did have areas around there, and they would have probably had some guards posted here and there during periods. Women at their agricultural work. Some of the villages of the Fort Ancient peoples were abandoned as they become buffalo hunters. Now they found a number of buffalo bones at the Madisonville site, but they don't find them at other sites. This theory says that the Fort Ancient people moved into and out of traditional Fort Ancient lands chasing these buffalo. Not all of the Fort Ancient people chased the buffalo, however, a large number would have remained in their traditional territory. Now that's a shaman's pipe there, or symbol there. They found that in the grave of a important shaman. You can see the sweat lodge there. That, once again, these are important ceremonial houses. Now links to the Fort Ancient people and the tribes of the historic area like the Shawnee and Cherokee are almost definite, and it is easy to see a close parallel between these tribes and the Fort Ancient tradition, particularly in regard to like pipe smoking, shamanic ceremonialism, and sacred symbology. So again, the pipes, they found large caches of pipes in a lot of these graves, indicating how important tobacco smoking was to these people. Once again, the Fort Ancient sites, you see it was a loosely confederated, and they were in competition with other complexes at the same time. You can see the Whittlesley and the Monongahela complex. They're all from the same period. Once again, all these complexes were getting corn agriculture. And you can see the Mississippian, the Fort Ancient, they were being surrounded by these other cultures. They picked up influences from all these cultures in their trade. Once we have a post there, and they linked these the findings in the men's lodge to the Delaware and Shawnee Big House, as you can see from this. These would have been important ceremonial houses. There you see two dogs ritually buried. Now once again, as I said earlier, they thought these dogs were just refuse or something had been found, and then they found some sacred amulets and some other things indicating that they had been buried as part of some ceremony. In addition, there have been pieces of corn found that were ceremonially burned in pits as part of like a green corn ceremony, which is an important ceremony in the Cherokee present day. So there we have links there to this ceremony, and the green corn was also important in Iroquois as the cultures, expanded out, and all these nations adopted corn agriculture and more intensive type agricultures. Showing you the beads. These would have been high status items here, worn by important dignitary stuff. Now, this is a skull that they found here, and this is like a reconstruction of what this person looked like. You can see how this is using modern forensics there, and there's an artist's rendition of what the shaman must have looked like. Once again, he was buried with these feathers, and they do find pieces of cloth in these graves also that have been preserved by copper, or by reacting with copper. It's a big house lodge there. There's the women there, once again engaged in the corn agriculture. You can see there it says they were stratified in this village here. They said not all the people seem to have been of equal importance, which indicates that this village here would have been probably one family in their clan, and the more high status individuals lived inside the village and would have had more access to the places around there. So again, that distinctive Fort Ancient pottery. Woodpeckers, different types of bone. They used all parts of the animal. So again, this pipe here is one of the most profound pipes that they found in the area. Now here they're showing the Fort Ancient dependence on the deer and how they used the deer literally for everything, just like the Plains Indians would use the buffalo. They made tools out of them. They made arrow points. They used the teeth for necklaces. Here we have other objects found in the graves. Notice the arrowheads seem to be smaller than some of, and because the bow and arrow you needed to make it lighter so the arrows would fly. Daily activity shown the fence there. So as you can see, that fence there would not really defensive so much as more like a territorial type marking. Here's a guard up on the tower there. Whether he's guarding or whether he's just looking out over there, not really certain. He's dressed in Fort Ancient costume. Now, Fort Ancient villages too. There are other artist renditions of them that some of them look slightly different from this, and some of them they almost use a longhouse. Now, this is the waterway that would have been used by the Fort Ancient people, and this empties into the Great Miami River eventually. So all these villages are built on some type of floodplain in an ecological zone where there's like different types of trees. Now we have another type of village here that would have been around at the same time, the Fort Ancient village. Now this is representative of the Monongahela type culture, an Iroquois